Josh, I want to pick your legal mind here. You're an attorney. This is what you specialize in. There's a lot of people, particularly on social media, who are pretending to be experts on the law regarding domestic military use, particularly the Insurrection Act and the Posse Comitatus Act. Please set the record straight on what a president, this is not just exclusive to President Trump, on what a president is allowed to do with the military domestically.
So this is a murky area, and the reality is that these statutes that you mentioned have been fairly infrequently invoked in our history. So there's not a whole lot of governing case law. The Supreme Court has not really had the occasion to opine. But we can look at what has happened. We can look at the Constitution. We can discern some overarching principles. Article 4 of the Constitution, before even getting into the statutory law, Article 4 of the Constitution says that the federal government shall guarantee to the states a republican form of government. Now, what that means is that when the states are in a de facto state of insurrection, as a constitutional matter, holding aside even the Insurrection Act or the Posse Comitatus Act, the federal government has a constitutional obligation to, in the words of the Constitution, to guarantee a republican form of government. And this has historical precedent. You know, in the 1790s, in 1791 to 1794, George Washington used federal troops to quell the Whiskey Rebellion in western Pennsylvania. Every high school history student theoretically should learn about the Whiskey Rebellion. It was one of the first armed insurrections in the early American Republic. George Washington sent troops from Maryland, from Pennsylvania, from the east to what was then the western part of the country to quell this uprising. In 1807, you have the Insurrection Act, which was passed as a duly codified statute, by the way. It was signed into law by a president not known for liking dictatorship, Thomas Jefferson. He did not particularly care for monarchists. He was a huge supporter of the French Revolution because it was so anti-king, anti-monarch. He nonetheless signed the Insurrection Act into law, and it has been invoked in our history, not frequently, but it has been invoked. President Eisenhower, President Kennedy, during the desegregation fights of the 1950s and 60s, invoked the Insurrection Act to send federal troops into the states to forcibly desegregate school districts against the obstinate, recalcitrant governors of those southern states. Most recently, it was invoked in 1992 with respect to the Rodney King riots in LA. George W. Bush actually considered invoking it after Hurricane Katrina, because Hurricane Katrina and Rodney King, much like the current situation, is the quintessential case of when the military can be used, and it is perhaps sometimes necessary to restore law and order. These statutes, that constitutional provision, are there for exactly these times. When there is an insurrection, when there is insurrectionist, seditious sentiment in the Republic, sometimes the military has to be used. That is not a foreign concept. And now, as you said, we should be skeptical. The hairs on the back of our neck should rise. These are not normal times, though, and sometimes we need these fail-safe provisions. And by the way, Trump hasn't even done anything yet. He's just talking about it. But he's talking about it in exactly the right way, and I was happy to see it.